Hello, everybody, and welcome to Interview Perfect, preparing for the admissions interview. So today we're going to talk about a few important items when it comes to getting ready for your admissions interview. We're going to talk about where you need to go, what you need to bring, how you need to dress, and how you actually prepare for the day of. So you get invited on an interview, and there are a few key pieces of information that you need to get so will make it there on time and make it to the right person. So you need to get the name of the person that you'll be meeting with. Sometimes it's an admissions representative, sometimes it is an alumni. So you need to understand who they are and how they coordinate with the school. So if you can get their title, that would be great. If you're meeting on campus, campuses tend to be large entities with not great addresses. So I would say get the name of the department that they work at, get the name of the building. If there is an exact address, get that. But typically, if you're turned around on a campus and you run into an employee or faculty, the first thing I'm going to say is what department and what building are they in? And with that, those two key bits of information, you can usually get where you need to go. You want to be arriving 10 to 15 minutes early. You don't want to arrive earlier than that, no more than 20, because it goes from looking like someone who is super prepared and on top of their game to someone who is just really early and starting to encroach on the interviewer's day. So just keep that in mind. If you do show up super early, just go to the coffee shop, explore a little bit, but be showing up at the location for your interview 10 to 15 minutes ahead of time. And I would say always go to the campus website or get an email from someone, get a campus map, get good directions. Don't be afraid to ask. If you're on the phone with someone setting up an interview, it's not going to be seen as anything but very professional and prepared or conscientious. If you say, great, what's the name of the person I'm going to be meeting with? What's their title? What office do they work in? What's the location? Are there any specific directions that I need once I get there, right? They might say, oh my goodness, that's right. It's that weird staircase that's to the left behind that big gray door that nobody notices. So asking those few key questions will help you get where you need to go. There's nothing worse than being 5 minutes from your interview and still being lost, right? And you can't get there. But what happens if you do find yourself running late? Call the person, call the office, let them know that you're turned around, you're lost on campus, you're running a few minutes late. Is it okay if I still show up? Does that work for you? And that usually settles any problems. What are you going to bring with you? Well, there are a few key things that you need to bring. One, a copy of your resume or brag sheet. And when you're presenting your resume or brag sheet in person, not electronically, it needs to be printed on resume paper. So the question I always get is, what exactly is resume paper? Well, this is the cotton stock paper. It's a little bit thicker than a standard paper that you would find in a printer somewhere. It is the formal way to present your resume. If you go to a store, if you go to a Walmart, a Target, Office Max, it's the paper that you find in a box. It doesn't have to be super expensive. For under $10, you can buy 100 or 200 sheets that will serve you very well. And that is the proper way. And when you're going on your admissions interview, I say bring 2 or 3 copies with you that are printed. You're there, you never know who you might run into or who else they want you to meet with, and you can always hand them a copy. It's also a very professional thing that when you actually sit down with that admissions representative, even though they may have everything that you already sent to the school, to say, here's a copy of my resume just in case you didn't have one. Again, uber professional, and they'll start to see you in a very good light. You also want to bring a notebook with you with a pen to take notes. Sometimes a nice pad folio. Those are like the leather binders where you can have a notebook on one side. You can have a few copies of your resumes tucked into the other side. There's a nice little holder for your pen, and you look very professional showing up, and you've got that with you. I also recommend bringing a list of 5 to 7 questions to ask the interviewer. So you need to know who your interviewer is, what their perspective is. You might not ask an alum of the school, as a representative of the school, the same types of questions that you ask an actual admissions representative, but you need to do your research and find good questions to ask, because obviously they are interviewing you but you are also making a decision about whether or not to attend that college. So make sure that you get your questions answered. So those are all great things to bring with you. Now let's talk about what to wear. This is always a big question, right? You're stepping out of high school, you're stepping into college, you're not quite in the business world yet, or, at that Fortune 500 company. So you're not wearing a three-piece suit, but you are stepping it up. You're not wearing what you wore maybe to class that day at high school to your interview. You want to show your interest. So if you have a school or attend a school that has a school uniform, that's absolutely appropriate. If you're choosing not to do that, you want to aim for a good business casual or a light business dress. So like I said, no three-piece suits, not necessary, but a long sleeve button-down shirt with a tie, a slacks, not jeans, shoes, not sneakers. Those are all things that are going to help. Skirts, if you're someone that wears skirts, mind the hem lengths, a nice button-down blouse with a sweater or a jacket, always nice. And if you, again, are choosing to wear heels, the general rule is 3 inches or less. This is a business environment. Treat it as such. So what you don't want to wear, t-shirts, flip-flops, heels that are too high, ripped jeans. And when it comes to the jewelry, keep it simple. You don't want to be overdressed. You want to be professional. So you can certainly go online, do a little research on this, but keep this in mind. Also something that you're comfortable in, because you are interviewing and you have to answer questions. You want to feel confident and comfortable in your outfit. All right, so let's talk about preparing your day, right? So the day that you're doing an interview, we do not recommend that you make it a day that you're also getting an admissions tour and you're talking to a faculty member and you're going to meet with an alum of the school. If you are there to do an interview, be there to do an interview. Maybe you end up spending 2 days at the campus, if it's long distance, 2 birds, 1 stone, and you can get a lot of things done, but just be able to focus on the interview the day that it happens. Moms and dads should not be going into the interview with the students. Honestly, if it's at an admissions office, I say you leave that student at the door. They're starting to show themselves as an adult and more into a step up into a more professional level educational world, which means they need to be doing this on their own. Have as normal a day as possible. So that's going to help mitigate stress, right? You may not feel like it, but eat lunch or eat breakfast, depending on when that interview is. If you're a gym person or a running person and you get up every morning and run 5 miles, the day of your admissions interview is not the day to skip that. You'll have a lot of extra energy, running around that you don't know what to do with. So try to be as normal as possible in your day, and that will help you be able to put yourself forth as the person that you are. Practice answering questions. I cannot say that enough. It is 2 different brain functions when you're thinking about what your answers would be versus how you're saying your answers. So you need to be able to practice them out loud. As I said, parents should stay in the car or find something else to do on campus. Use the time that you're there, but you should not be accompanying your student into the interview. And remember to be fun. Be yourself. And let the admissions representative see who you are. The reason that they're bringing you in is because they think that you might be a good fit. So all you really need to do is prove them right. So research the school. I can't say that enough. When you're preparing those questions to ask the admissions representative, know the mission, know the vision, know the programs that are available, know a little bit of the history. You don't have to be a scholar on their university, but you do have to know what's going on. You have to know whether or not your major is represented. You have to know what classes you might be able to take, what clubs there are on campus. So spend a little time on the website and do some research. And, remember that you're being interviewed no matter where you are on campus. So you're putting on that friendly, polite, patient face wherever you go. Even when you're on the phone, start coordinating these events. People know who you are. And when I was back in admissions, I would always ask the receptionist what they thought of my candidate, How did they treat you? What did they ask? And just know that everyone is watching. The other part is your telephone. So put that phone away. I can't reiterate that enough. If you need to bring it into the meeting with you, I highly recommend that you're actually turning it off and you're not allowing that to be a distraction. All right. Remember that it only takes 7 seconds to form your first impression, which means those 7 seconds are usually the body language that you're using as you're walking across the room to shake someone's hand. So you want to maintain good eye contact. When you're shaking hands, it's a firm professional handshake. If you go out onto YouTube, there's lots of content about professional handshakes and what they mean. Body language is your smile. It is standing up straight. It is being warm. It is being professional. Sitting up straight in your seat, when you're face to face. So be mindful of these things and know that if it's done well, it will really, really help you the day of your interview. All right, so when you're in that interview, it is your job to prove to them that you really want to go to this school. So you really need to think about why you want to go to that school. You need to demonstrate your interest. You need to share stories. You need to talk about your experiences, your accomplishments. It is your job to sell yourself. You need to be enthusiastic, confident, courteous, but above all, honest. Give the interviewer a reason to recommend you. So there's no necessarily right or wrong answers when it comes to the admissions interview. There are your answers. But if you don't believe that you're a good fit for that school, no one's going to believe you. So it really does start with you. And I think it starts with you practicing. Also keep in mind that universities are creating a community. So it's not just about being in class and getting A's on your work. It's also about all the other ways that you might contribute on campus. So you don't just have to speak about the classes that you've taken while you were in high school. All those other things that you've been doing, the sports that you've been playing, the community service you've been doing. Maybe you're a musician on the side, or you're a movie buff, right? And you have all these amazing facts. All of those things are things that make you who you are. So they can be part of the answers that you're talking about. So most importantly, how to answer the questions. Again, be honest. Don't get off topic, okay? So when you're answering questions, they should be about a minute long at the long end before they become a conversation. Someone's probably going to ask you follow-up questions based on the answer that you give, but your answers don't need to be 10-minute dissertations. So just keep that in mind. And when they tend to be very long answers, you tend to get off topic. You tend to not answer the question that was actually asked. So to the point and concise is never a bad thing. Need to give examples. You need to practice. You need to know your stories. What are your successes? What are your failures? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are obstacles that you've overcome? Who has influenced you most? Who has really helped you get where you are today? Are all types of topics that a typical admissions interview will ask. So you need to start thinking about these experiences. And the only way to get good at telling stories is to practice telling them out loud. So take some time, even if you don't have an admissions interview lined up yet, but you know that they're coming, get started now. Start to develop your resume if you haven't already done so. Have that memorized top to bottom and be able to tell your stories, and you'll have a fantastic admissions interview. There's also a downloadable list of typical questions that an admissions interview would ask. So please don't forget to go download that page and start to practice your answers. Thanks for listening and have a wonderful day.